I'd like to talk to you today about a unique moment in human history. It's the moment we're all living through, the digital revolution. And this is fundamentally changing life on the planet as we know it, in ways that many of us can't even comprehend. But the biggest change we're going to see is with people at work. So I think it's often a good idea, if we want to understand the present moment, to take a step back in history. So I'd like to do that first. This is our home, the Earth. It's 4 billion years old. And over the course of those 4 billion years, the Earth has seen some massive transformations, usually as a result of massive rocks, which have come slamming into the side of it. And I have one of these rocks just here. This is a meteor, 400,000 years old, that landed in Mexico. Life came to the planet on these rocks. And we saw about 160 million years ago the emergence of a particular form of life. Remember these guys? The dinosaurs. In their day, they were the most well-adaptive, powerful beasts on this planet. Unfortunately for the dinosaurs, however, about 68 million years ago, one of these rocks came slamming into the Yucatan, blew a crater 120 kilometers wide, and it hit with an impact of 110 million megatons of TNT. And that was the end of the dinosaurs. They became extinct. Along with about 80% of the biomass of the planet actually at the time. Because this impact, to give you an idea, think back to the Cold War. Think when the USA and the USSR had their arsenal, nuclear arsenal, pointed towards each other. There was 20,000 warheads on either side at the time. And if World War III had broken out and all of those 20,000 warheads had been released, the impact would have been 18,000 megatons of TNT, making this meteor 6,000 times greater than World War III. And we know what the predictions would be with World War III, complete obliteration of life as we know it. So there was huge extinction. But there was also massive evolution. And that eventually led to the emergence of modern humans, just like you and me. And for those of you who don't know, modern humans, we emerged about 200,000 years ago. What's really interesting is we weren't the only humans that were wandering the planet at that time. There was loads of other humans, different species. But what Homo sapiens did is we formed tribes. And these tribes had certain characteristics to them. They were personal. Usually a tribe was composed of about 150, 200 people. It's a very personal experience being part of a tribe. Everyone had their roles. Everyone had a very unique experience. They were social. And they collaborated. Sharing was absolutely a key characteristic of the tribes. They were also mobile. They moved all over the planet. And they told each other stories. That's how they transferred knowledge and learning down through the generations. And it was these tribes that allowed human beings to evolve. And we saw the emergence about 16,000 years ago of great civilizations. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey was the oldest site that we know of today. And that led to 2015 with a graph of change over time that looks a little bit like this. Very slow and then a sudden takeoff. And you know, this journey was not an easy journey. There were many trials, there were many tribulations along the way. And what the tribes would do in those dark moments, they would turn to their oracles. And the oracles would tell them two things. Firstly, if they wanted to survive, they needed to be adapt quickly to change. They needed to be agile. And if they wanted to thrive, they needed to access the power of their imagination. And they needed to be innovative. And that's exactly what human beings have done. Now, I want to look at a different type of world. Corporate world. corporate world is 400 plus years old. And during those 400 years, it too has seen some pretty radical transformations. We saw the Industrial Revolution, and in 1984, along came the World Wide Web, and that led to the digital revolution. And this has changed everything as far as the corporate world is concerned. The biggest change, the graph. Change over time is now exponential, and we are only here on the graph. So what does that mean? Well, let's take a very simple example. Let's look at data. 90% of the data on the planet has been put there in the last 2 years. And that data today is predominantly in the cloud, which means that if you have an access device and the right level of security clearance, you can access it. Anyone can. That is fundamentally changing consciousness of human beings on this planet. And it's leading massive evolution on the one hand, but it's also leading to wide-scale extinction on the other. So let's look at the extinctions first and foremost. The Fortune 500 in 2000. As a percentage, how many do you think are extinct today? 52%. Have either gone out of business or been acquired. They're extinct. What the digital revolution is doing is it is causing massive disruption to established business models. And I'll give you an example here. The largest company for taxis on the planet today is Uber. Uber owns 0 taxis. What's more interesting about the taxi business is that by 2030, there's predicted to be 20 million driverless cars on the road. And let's take it a step further. Let's look at money, which is also changing. We've seen the emergence of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only currency that doesn't have to be owned by humans or groups of humans, a corporation being a group of humans. Bitcoin can be owned by software. Now let me just say that again so it sinks in. Bitcoin can be owned by software. So what happens when you put Uber, driverless cars, and Bitcoin together? What we're seeing in the digital economy is the emergence of artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things. We're seeing small little sensors which are embedded in our machines, which can gather all of this big data and run advanced analytics on it. So it can start to make intelligent decisions in real time and take action. This is the future of AI. And when we get to here, it's predicted our AI will be self-aware and more intelligent than humans. So that's a big change. But the biggest change we're seeing is of people at work. And that's also something we can have a look at today. Let's look at the demographic in the modern workforce. People come in at about 20. And in the US, they retire today at 75, 65 in the UK. It's different in different countries. The point is that it's getting older and older. And what's also interesting about the demographic, which is very different from previous demographics we've seen, you now have sons, fathers, and grandfathers potentially for the same organization. But what's really interesting is that these guys here came along with the digital revolution. So suddenly, they have as much to teach these guys as these guys have to teach these guys. Although this generation is also catching up when it comes to digital. What does that say for learning and development across your organization? And what we're seeing here is an extension as well, or a likely extension in the retirement age. Why? Because one of the things that's becoming extinct is many of our modern diseases. What's the biggest killer on the planet today? A lot of people won't know this or will think they know it, but the answer is aging. Now, you may not think of aging as a disease, but there are a lot of people who do. There are a lot of scientists, well-funded, who do. And there's a lot of research and development going into how we can extend our lifespans with personalized medicine, the sequencing of individual human genomes. So we are likely to see people living much longer than we currently do today and healthy, which means that this is going to extend even further. The other thing we're going to see is that organizations are going to actually have to start reaching back into higher education. Why? The biggest limiting factor to an organization's ability to accelerate on this curve? Talent. Access to the right talent. And that is recognized today by 73% of CEOs. Now here's the thing in the digital economy though. The talent that you require doesn't actually exist today in many cases. So you think about a manufacturing company with their digital, or with their mechanical, should I say, engineers. Well, now that they have become software and analytics companies, which is what most manufacturing companies are today, they actually need digital mechanical engineers. Where do they exist in an organization today? Probably not in one individual. So collaboration across teams is going to be very important, but also reaching back into higher education to develop that talent and reaching back into schools. The other resources we need are people who can write the algorithmic platforms, the analytics, and take care of all the cybersecurity, which is the biggest threat to all of this. We need a lot more data scientists. And as the interface between humans and machines becomes ever more important, we're also going to need a lot of people who are skilled user interface experts. Again, not many of these resources exist today. So you're going to get an organization that starts with school kids and goes through to grandfathers in their hundreds and beyond. That looks like no organization that we know today. In fact, when we get to this point, that looks an awful lot more like a tribe. Or what I like to call a digital tribe. So how do you provide a digital experience for your digital tribe? And what are the modern day oracles saying? And what are we saying as Oracle? Well, two things to our customers essentially. One, you need to be agile if you want to adapt and survive, and you need to be innovative if you want to gain competitive advantage and thrive. So, remember these guys? The Dinosaur. Think of the Dinosaur as a client's legacy SAP environment. Great beast in its day, very well adapted to the task at hand. Unfortunately, it's rapidly becoming extinct. The future of technology sits in the cloud. Oracle knows this. We've bet our business on it. $38 billion bet on cloud. And we're the only organization today that offers the full suite: HCM, ERP, EPM, and CX. All your back office applications in the cloud. And that's highly secure, and it's delivered as a service. And what's more, we can rapidly move you to the cloud with our partners and with OCS. In fact, we're moving clients in 8 to 12 weeks. Because the model for implementing cloud is very different from the model for implementing a Dinosaur. With cloud, you're talking about standard best practice processes which you adopt and configure. It's a solution-led approach. It's much quicker, and the platform is a lot more agile, as opposed to a customized approach in the Dinosaur age, when the best the software was the day it went live. And it probably took you 2 or 3 years to get it live because the software was old. What you get in the cloud is a continuous journey of innovation with 2 major updates per annum. That allows your organization to access the latest in digital experience, personalized content, social collaboration tools, mobility, being accessible on any device, and learning tools that are based around how people learn in the digital age. The second largest search engine on the planet today is YouTube, because millennials search with videos. Oracle's learning platform has recognized that, and we've developed content in video format and podcasts, etc., that's easily accessible, unstructured learning. This is also very important, though, if you want to attract the right talent. So let's look at this device, which also came along with the digital revolution. Most millennials, 72% and above, when they search for jobs today, do it on one of these devices with things like LinkedIn. So if your recruitment engine doesn't give you the capability to reach out to those potential employees in a language that they understand, you're going to be missing your opportunity to attract the talent that's needed to drive your competitive advantage. This is hugely important, not just for how you manage your people, but for how you go to market. Also, what Oracle have recognized, and we've built great innovation into, is that customers are looking for deeper insights, and we can use our advanced analytics platform to provide that with reports in real time that can help you accurately track and manage your KPIs. And we've also recognized something around competitive advantage, and that is that when you can access standard best practice processes from the cloud, your competitive advantage is no longer determined by how smart your organization is, because actually smart can be delivered as a service. Your competitive advantage now is based on how healthy your organization is, how aligned to its values, and how healthy are the individuals who are working for the organization, in body and in mind, because we know the mind-body connection. So if you've got a healthy, happy workforce, you're going to be a lot more competitive. And that's why we're seeing wellness emerge as the next $1 trillion industry. And within our application, we have a module that focuses on wellness. It looks at competitions within teams to really help them try and improve the overall health and vitality of the workforce. So when we think about competitive advantage being based on the health of the organization, something really interesting happens. What I think is going to happen here is this whole idea of human resources is going to go by the wayside. Because actually, it's a really bad way to look at human beings as resources. And in fact, I think what we're going to see emerge instead are chief happiness officers. Now, some people may laugh at this. These guys already exist today. And let's look at a simple example of one, of a company that has one. Google. They've got a chief happiness officer. They're also the #1 company for employee engagement on the planet today. And there are others. So this is definitely, I think, what's going to emerge in the future, because a happy, healthy organization is one that will have competitive advantage. So if you want to understand a little bit more about what this might mean for your organization, what are the next steps? Well, first and foremost, we would encourage you all to think about how much you're currently spending to maintain the Dinosaur. And if you were to move to this more agile platform, like other clients have, BT, Siemens, many others, what would it cost you? And what would it look like technically? Because this journey, for many IT managers who have been used to managing the Dinosaur, can be scary. And so they need someone to hold their hand and walk them through exactly what the process looks like. Oracle can help in both respects. Firstly, we have a team of business consultants, ex-McKinsey, Accenture, all the big consultancy houses, that can come in and look at the business case and develop a benefits realization framework for you. That's a free service that Oracle offers to our clients. That will help you understand how much you can save and what the benefits would be for your organization by moving to the cloud. The second thing that we offer via Oracle Consulting or our partners is a roadmap exercise that looks at the technical issues and works closely with your IT team, with your security people, etc., to draw that roadmap and give them confidence around the journey. And the third thing we offer is to sit down with your executive team with the right level of executive sponsorship and work on a plan for how your organization will be able to compete and thrive in the digital economy. So we run what are called digital experience workshops. This will really be useful in terms of feeding into the digital strategy that you're looking to develop for the organization. It's interesting when we think about where the future may take us. The reality is we don't really know. So we can speculate, right? But it's very interesting to think what might be the scenario when AI gets to this point, because this will certainly look an awful lot different. But you know, maybe this artificial intelligence will be kind to us. And maybe they'll develop a virtual world where we can re-experience what it was like to be humans. When I look at the past, there's also a lot of uncertainty, because we don't really know what happened in those 200,000 years. We guess. What we do know, however, is that during those 200 years, hundreds of these rocks continued to hit the Earth, some as big as this, some almost as close to this. And we know what would happen if one of these were to hit today. So actually, this chart may look a bit more like that. And the digital revolution we're living through today may not be the first one in human history. And if that sounds completely bizarre to you, have you ever looked at your hand? What does science tell you about your hand? What does it tell you it's made of? It's made of cells, right? Well, look inside those cells, and what you'll see molecules. And if you look inside the molecules, you'll see atoms. And if you look inside the atoms, what do you see? Empty space. So maybe we're already there.